Well, let's get this show on the road. What's going on out there, everybody? Well, let's get this show on the road. So let's see if I can find a few settings here. Get all my screens reoriented correctly. Stop echoing and all that good stuff. Good to see everybody this morning. Can you guys hear me okay? Just give me a thumbs up or something out there in the chat. Looks like we got, 18 or 19 people at the moment. I could play some music for you guys. Okay. I see. Bill on Earth is Light says I sound good. No echo, loud and clear. Perfect. Perfect. That's what we wanted. All righty. Well, we'll just kill a little time in case a few people are going to straggle in. Yeah, we got 24 out there right now. Cue the banjo, huh? I could play a little bit of, let's see, what have I got? I got some Scott Joplin music. Can always try playing that. Or we could just show funny little pictures on the screen, stuff like this. There's my friend. I haven't done it yet, Bev, but I'm about to. Be patient. Oh, good. 39 people watching. Well, let's see. Let me get everything queued up correctly here. Sort of tell you what this is a little bit about. I dropped by the Try Thinking live stream yesterday just in time to catch a number of them over there totally misrepresenting things I have said in the past, which doesn't sit too well with me. So I thought maybe it might be a good time just to straighten a few things out, because these guys consistently misunderstand what Coriolis is and how it really has little or no effect on an airplane and why we ignore it altogether. And others over there don't understand how an airplane can just maintain its altitude regardless of what shape the earth is underneath it. And both of those things have been, they've attributed things to me that I never said, never would say, unless maybe I was being extremely sarcastic or something. But at any rate, I thought it was worthwhile taking a look at that and some of the other inconsistencies that come out of that group. They seem to have a really difficult time with reality and being truthful. Why that is, I don't really know. But anyway, let me see if I can, let's get rid of that screen. This is a copy of stuff I pulled off Bev's channel here yesterday. There's about 26 minutes of it, but it'll take a bit longer than that to go through it. So, tell you what, without further ado, oh boy, 52 people watching. Let me go ahead and play a little bit of this. Let's see if you guys are able to hear it okay.
Most of them.
I've never talked to a surveyor that either knew or was willing to get into a conversation about curvature of level. It's a ridiculous concept for anyone to talk about, specific, and anybody within the trade.
Yeah, all the surveyors that I've talked to, which have been a pretty good bit, they tell me that water is horizontal. Like, that's how they would check their tool. If they thought their tool was out, they would compare it to the water nearby and see if their tool was out of, whack, or, if they're set up right, or, whatever. But when I do ask them specific questions on how to measure curvature of water, they don't know what to say. They've never done it.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute now. Raqia, are you telling me that surveyors take their equipment out to the field and then look for a body of water to check their instruments by? Is that really what you said? I don't quite get that. I admit I'm not a surveyor, but that seems, that just does not seem quite right to me, my friend. I'll tell you what, though, I do have a question, Bev. You said you'd never run into anybody that was willing to talk about curvature. What about these guys, Bev? These guys at this outfit called the Ordnance Survey. I believe you find them over in your neck of the woods. This seems to be addressed to you. It says, try thinking. You have to read this from the bottom. The first panel is at the bottom, and then go up to the middle and then up to the top. But let me just read what it says. Hi, Bev. Our maps are accurate, but within the tolerances for each scale. Yeah, let me start. I'm just checking some stuff. Hang on a second. Yeah, okay, it's showing. Let me start over again. It says, hi, Bev. Our maps are accurate, but within the tolerances set for each scale. You have to remember that we are producing a 2D representation of a 3D feature. And then go up to this upper right panel and read the next sentence. Allowing for the curvature of the Earth. We produce our maps as accurate as possible. There's also relative and positional accuracy, and relative accuracy is usually more important to map readers. For example, a 1 to 2500 scale, that's a centimeter equals 25 miles, or 25 meters. At a distance of 100 meters, we allow a tolerance of 98.1 meters and 101.9 meters for 95% of the overall distances. Then the upper panel. It can get very technical, but our maps and data are accurate as we can produce. I'll try that again. My screen's real small. It's hard for me to see it. It can get very technical, but our maps and data are as accurate as we can produce them. But you have to allow for distortion. And the last sentence, as the Earth is curved. Now, Bev, this is the Ordnance Survey. These are the guys that handle all the geodetic type stuff for your country. And you're saying that you've not met any surveyors that are willing to talk about this. Well, something seems to be wrong here. Maybe you just forgot about it. So I got an idea. Why don't you try addressing this issue? Why don't you try addressing this guy? And why don't you go tell the Ordnance Survey that they're wrong, the Earth isn't curved, and see what kind of response you get. I would love to see you do that. Let's continue.
And two, they don't know how to answer that question because they probably, I don't know if they've never thought about it because I can't really, speak for them, but it just seems like they've never even thought about that question.
Yeah, I'd say the ballers that we talk to, say the globe earthers that we talk to, say that the level curves or, horizontals don't exist or whatever. No surveyor would ever say that. Like, how, the ballers say there's no flat earth surveyors. Well, obviously, it's not flat. They measure elevation changes. There is no surveyor that would get another job if they walk round saying that level curves.
So you're telling me that the guy that you were talking to at the Ordnance Survey no longer has a job. Is that really what you want to maintain that position, Bill? I'll bet he's still there.
They wouldn't get a second job at all.
Yeah. Not even a geodetic survey?
Yeah. No, they wouldn't, would they? Yeah. How could they?
They would not. They would not. And I want everyone to hear this. Not one geodetic surveyor isn't a plane surveyor. That's all they do.
Mm-hmm.
They use plane surveying tools, plane surveying methods, and just connect the dots.
Yeah, the one dot that they don't connect is globe. Nobody else deals with globe. Only people in this fucking stupid arena that we're in.
Yeah. Tell me what the class surveying school is. Do they teach you how to measure curved water? I want to be there.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah, I've done it. First day, you sort of get a dismissal of you don't ever do that, so don't even think about it. Don't worry about it.
I wonder why Raqia thinks you would want to go and measure curved water. We know it curves. We know exactly how much it curves. Why do you need to go and measure it? That would make less sense than anything I could think of.
You'll never have to do that.
I'd like to go to go get my pilot's license and go to any instructor that teaches you what day Coriolis is. Besides Blue, of course, because we all know, Blue told me he was an instructor and taught Coriolis. So, wow, what do you know? Like, he's here in this topic. That's amazing. Yeah. He's a pilot and an instructor and taught Coriolis. But you go to any other class besides Blues, which I don't think he's teaching anymore. You won't be, there's no day or hour or minute that you'll be taught how Coriolis will affect your flight and, how you correct for it or what instrument you need to be aware of, or when you call the tower on, like we do, almost like depending on where you are, every 10 or 15 minutes you're talking to a tower, and not one time do they tell you, you've deviated, this
from
many
level
feet because of Coriolis. Yeah.
Okay, 100% of that was bullshit. I never told Raqia anything of the sort. In fact, I've made multiple videos about the insignificance of Coriolis on an airplane. For instance, this was one of the first ones I made back in, the date of this video is September 26th, 2019. So I can make it a little bigger so you guys could see it better. I'm certainly not going to play the whole thing, but I'll play just a little bit of this. That's a good demonstration of what happens to objects that are moving in a rotating frame of reference. Yeah, let me stop and make this one point. It is not, if the Earth is rotating, which we know it of course is, free-moving objects cannot move in a rotating frame of reference and not experience the Coriolis effect. It's impossible. It's got to be there. The question is how much is it? How significant is it? I can tell you that in the entire time I flew, I don't think the word Coriolis ever came up. And to be honest about it, in my professional career in engineering, the only time I ever heard Coriolis mentioned was when we were talking about a type of mass flow meter, which uses the Coriolis effect to measure the flow of liquids. There is such a thing as that. But other than that, this is a really obscure little thing that's basically only raises its head around these flat Earth discussions. But let's go ahead and listen to a little bit more of what I said about Coriolis force on an airplane. So now let's figure out what happens to an airplane. And to do that, let's take a flight from Valparaiso, Indiana down to Nashville, Tennessee. I've made this flight myself many times. I'm going to fly down there today at 9,500 feet. I've got about 320 nautical miles en route. The course is almost due south, 177 degrees. But today we've got a wind that's out of 260 degrees at 22 knots. So eventually we're going to have to deal with that. Now the airplane we're going to fly is this M20F. It has an airspeed of 165 knots and it weighs about 1,240 kilograms when it's fully loaded. Calculating the Coriolis effect on an aircraft or any other object for that matter is very straightforward. You can see the formula there on the left. I plugged it into an online calculator and you come up with a force that will be against the left side of the airplane, since we're flying south, of 9.416 newtons. That's about 2.25 pounds. 2.25 pounds of force against a 2,700 pound airplane. It's not a lot, but it would still make a slight difference. The Coriolis acceleration is 0.007593 meters per second squared. Well, what does that look like graphically? It's like this. The airplane is going to be deflected to the right because of the Coriolis force, and we need a correction to the left, to the east, to account for that. One way we could do that is a bank angle correction. We could simply bank the aircraft slightly to the left to match the Coriolis acceleration. And we end up with about a 0.044 degree bank correction. Now, in reality, a pilot would probably elect to do a side slip maneuver, but we won't even go into that. We'll just use this bank angle correction. So what does that look like on the airplane? Well, the correction is going to be to the left, and so the left wing is going to be low and the right wing is going to be high. And 0.044 degrees on that Mooney is less than 0.17 inches from the wingtip down to parallel. Can you imagine that? Imagine trying to fly an airplane and hold a bank angle of roughly 3/16 of an inch out at the wingtip. This is the reason why we don't pay any attention to Coriolis. It's insignificant. We could try it on a bigger airplane. This was one that off a live stream on, and I did this this video on August the 24th of 2020, where we were I was talking to Chris Berry, I believe. But I did a little calculation. Let's see if we can find it here. I'm going to get shut that off. Get rid of the ad. I did this on a larger airplane just for demonstration purposes. There, I won't even play the video. I'll just talk through this. I looked at what would happen to a Boeing 747-8 and did the same sort of calculations for one of those things. And even at that airspeed of 900 kilometers an hour, even at that airspeed, you only need a bank angle of about 0.15 degrees to account for whatever Coriolis the force would be present. Actually, in large aircraft with a lot of sophisticated instrumentation on it, I think even Wolfie 6020 has been able to show that you actually do hold about a 0.1 degree bank angle. But in the equipment that I always flew, I didn't have to worry about that. It was never a big deal. So this clown saying that I said they teach Coriolis is just full of crap. Whoops. Wait a second. Yeah, I screwed up, didn't I? Sorry about that. Forgot to turn that thing off. So you guys missed the graphic part of it. That's okay. It doesn't really make any difference. And in this Boeing 747 example, I did make a mistake on that slide. I came and corrected it. On a 10-hour flight, even if the Coriolis effect was acting like a direct headwind, you would only extend the flight time by about 1 minute. That's all. So it's absolute crap for these guys to say that I ever said that we teach Coriolis. Absolutely not. The first thing I taught people on their first lesson was how to trim the airplane. That's an important thing to know. They need to know what makes it turn, how do you turn it, and how do you stabilize it, and how do you trim it. Those were the things we teach, not Coriolis. So, Raqia, I'm sorry, but that was just dishonest of you.
Yeah.
What's his name? The truck driver, Howard. Howard Moore is getting his pilot license, and I joked around with him the other night. I said, Howard, you got to record your first flight, your first, once you get your license, your first flight up, call in the tower and ask them how much earth curve you have to calculate for Coriolis. And he just laughed because that's all he can do.
Yeah.
He will never, ever call the tower and ask them that or compute it in his flight plan because it doesn't exist.
And to respond to Justin in the chat, that's absolutely right. It would be just if you wanted to correct for it, it would be a small heading change. That would be a better way. That would be an easier way to do it. That would be a tiny, tiny, tiny little angle. So anyway, what are you saying? And Raqia is in the chat. Good, Raqia. So you did teach. I did teach what? I didn't teach Coriolis, buddy. Not once. Not ever. Knock that crap off.
Now he will learn about 1,000 other things, and he'll have to contact the tower about every little inch of barometric pressure that he has to adjust his altimeter for.
Raqia, you got a lot to learn about airplanes and flying. You don't always talk to the tower. There's a whole bunch of different people you talk to. When you get in the airplane, you call up a thing called clearance delivery. That's who you talk to first. The next guy you talk to is called ground control. You don't move the airplane until ground control tells you to do so. When they get you out to the hold line, then they'll turn you over to the tower and they give you takeoff clearance, or they give you landing clearance. But after you take off, you get handed off to approach departure control. And once you get out of the area, then you talk to center. All you ever talk about is tower. You've not done very much of this, have you?
Right. Every time we talk to a tower, they give us the barometric pressure for that area.
We've got an update. It appears that we do have some listeners, or somebody listening for him to tell him to come in. I think he must have been listening. Thanks for listening, Blue. Already there. He says, you're a liar, Raqia. I never said anything like that. You're just making stuff up. That's Blue.
No. Yeah, he's an old man that's forgetting the lies that he told me over the years.
Yeah.
Definitely told me he was a pilot. Definitely told me that he trained, he was an instructor and taught the day of Coriolis. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Definitely blue marble science.
Yeah. That's the sort of thing you wouldn't forget, right?
Right.
Especially I know you, and I know the conversations that we've all had. And that's something that you will have remembered, because that's the first time you'll have ever heard anybody claim that they teach it.
Right.
Yeah.
And like Hayden NASA Shill, I will never forget that he told me he was an Air Force pilot and refueled the SR-71, Blue. You understand? I'll never forget those lies that y'all tell.
Yeah.
Never.
Well, we're probably not going to forget the ones you've been telling, Raqia. And they have been substantial and consistent.
That's why when you and Hayden NASA Shill are on the same voice channel and someone wants to know something about piloting, they don't ask Hayden NASA Shill, although he's way more qualified than you if you just have your PPL, and he was in the Air Force for that many years and refueled the SR-71 multi-engine jet that he's flying as a refueler and in the Air Force. He's way above your single or twin engine PPL, right? Well, that no one ever asked Hayden NASA Shill anything, even you. You know why? Because y'all know he's not a pilot.
You're just making up shit again, Raqia. That's all you do is make up bullshit. You can't prove a damn thing you're saying. On the other hand, I can prove some stuff.
So they ask you, a single engine, maybe flying a Tiger, a Cessna, or a twin engine. I don't know your rating, but I doubt it's twin jet, right? I doubt it's multi-engine jet. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but just by knowing you, if you are a pilot at all, which I think you were or are.
If I am a pilot at all? Yeah, I've heard about enough of that crap. Hang on a second. That, my friend, comes off the FAA website. Now, I'm not going to divulge my personal information, Raqia, so I've blued that stuff out, but you can read it for yourself. On the left-hand side, it says commercial pilot. You see that? It's exactly what I have always represented myself as being. Commercial pilot, airplane, single-engine land, instrument airplane. And I have private privileges as a multi-engine pilot. Don't pay any attention to that date. That's the date the FAA swapped over from paper licenses to plastic. And when they reissued my plastic license, that permanent thing, that's the date they stuck on it. That's one thing, Raqia. On the second page, this is the rest of it. Under flight instructor, airplane, single engine, instrument airplane. That's a CFI, CFII, sir. And then you look at one weird one, which is called certified ground instructor. Actually, advanced ground instructor. That's a rating I got actually, and it's kind of funny. I got it by accident because I took the wrong damn test for flight instructor. It's a very similar test. I'd already taken it and passed it, and the FAA examiner from the FSDO in Nashville said, "Hey, I'll just sign you off, and you can have that rating too." So that's where that came from. But don't you ever question my credentials again, sir.
You have your PPL and can fly a single engine Cessna or maybe a twin engine. But why would they ask you if Hayden NASA Shill is in there? An ex-Air Force pilot with multi-engine rating, which he told me he had more than that. He had the
all of them.
Yeah, no, that wasn't him. That was Matt. Yeah, Matt. Well, what engines are you rated for to fly? What was it? Flat Earth Math?
No, it was FE Pilot, wasn't it? FE Pilot.
FE Pilot, yeah, that was hilarious. But Hayden NASA Shill says he has the highest rating license, which he can, it's transport or forget what it is. It's basically you can do anything.
Well, if you were taking lessons, you ought to know what it is. It's called Airline Transport Pilot, ATP. That's the top of the heap.
Passengers, cargo, that sort of thing. forget what it's called actually, but it's a joke. But
Yeah.
keep asking Blue your piloting questions, because these single engine PPL pilots, they know it all, right? My niece has that. Anyway.
I can't. I'll never forget Blue. He was the first guy that told me about sloping water, and then topped it up with unclamping the hump. Blue showed us that.
Bill's still butthurt over a feature that's in Google Earth. He just can't stand the idea. Can't stand the idea that Google Earth actually lets you change a line from. Let's look at this one right here. This line can go. Let me open up properties. Altitude. We can clamp it to the ground. That's their term, not mine. I didn't make that up. That's what Google Earth calls it. Now it's just laying on the surface of the water. Or we can do it as an absolute altitude. Check that out. And we can raise and lower the altitude as we wish with this little slider. See there? And we can bring that down, and look what happens. We can make the line disappear right through the curvature of the Earth, Bev. So you got to complain about that. Bitch at Google Earth, not me.
You got many firsts for Blue in my book. He says, hey Raqia, I was, brackets not active anymore, a CFI/CFII, and not once did I ever say I taught Coriolis. You're damned liar, Raqia. I'm commercial instrument multi. What do you have?
No, I don't have my license yet. When I do, I'll just be single engine, and I won't have my instrument rating for a while. I'll just be VFR. But I haven't gone back to class yet. I don't have that much longer. We have our own plane to take lessons in. It's just taking the time to go do it with all this stuff that's going on.
He never said he taught Coriolis, so I mean that's at least that there's no Coriolis, right? That's a good one. So
ask him if he was ever taught Coriolis.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, isn't it? Yeah.
He's commercial rated. Is that what he's saying? He's commercially instrument rated, whatever that means.
It's commercial, instrument, multi. So they may be three
instrument is
separate.
just VFR and instrument rate. Like you can fly by instruments. You don't have to have visual. You can fly that IFR rating flight plan. So you can fly in clouds basically or bad weather. Instrument rating is a higher rating. It's more hours in the cockpit and like more training. It's a higher rating. Well, that's good if he has that.
Mm-hmm.
So he would know all about being trained on Coriolis. What day was it, Blue?
Yeah.
Why are you in chat?
He's hiding away in chat. He doesn't even want us to know that he was listening. That must
Calling
have
me a
pained
liar
him.
from chat.
Yeah, it must have pained him to type something in chat.
He's probably busy.
Yeah.
No, Coriolis is never discussed as part of aviation that I'm aware of. I've certainly never heard anybody talk about it. What would be the point? I've just shown you how terribly insignificant that force is. Any wind at all is going to be 10 times or 100 times the effect of what little bit of force Coriolis force you could experience. We ignore it for a good reason. It doesn't really make any difference. We really would never be able to consciously, or as far as I'm concerned, you wouldn't be able to consciously correct for it in any meaningful sort of way. So what's the point of even talking about it? You guys are just trying to make something out of nothing.
We want to comment about pi, Blue. What do you think about that? That's good.
What do I think about pi? Jesus.
I wonder if Blue ever heard of
Played NASA Shields is correct. Yeah, in meteorology class, you would have covered that. That is probably true, but certainly not in terms of flying an airplane.
illusionary wind. It's a new one that up today, folks.
Yeah.
I wonder if he agrees with
Moyak.
Bob or whoever it was that says you have to correct for Coriolis when you're driving down the highway. Blue, you were in that discussion, weren't you? Because I think Bob is a pilot too. I mean, everybody's a pilot.
Well, they were on opposite sides of the argument, Raqia. One was saying yes, and one was saying no, if I recall.
Oh, were they? I don't remember that. I just remember everyone being there, and a couple pilots were talking about how they correct for Coriolis.
Yeah.
I was sitting in a parking lot on Greenwood Springs Road. I can tell you exactly where I was when that conversation was happening, because I was laughing like no get out. Because I was asking them, well, what instrument, like when do you calculate that? When, do you have to report how much Coriolis you're feeling, or do you pass that on to the pilots near you, or it's just something that
you read the Coriolis gauge.
yeah. Where's the tablet? Like, where's the calculator that tells me how much Coriolis I'm going to be affected by when I'm in, behind the stick? I mean, surely if it's affecting the airplane or the flight, you would train on it, for one, and then you would have an instrument that would tell you, or at least a chart, and then, go from there. You probably just trim a little bit. It's probably just wind, right? Like, more drag this way or that way, making the airplane fly in a certain vector, so you adjust for that. It's probably just that, right, Blue? I get wound up with the pilots. Paid NASA Shield ruined me with all his refueling the SR-71 and being a Pan Am pilot. Crap.
Moyak was, speaking of flying and pilots, Moyak was telling me today that there's a thing called illusionary wind. Now get this, it affects a plane, but there could be balloons right next to the plane and not affect them. And that negates the Coriolis effect.
I have absolutely no idea what SC Montreal is babbling about. That made no sense whatsoever.
Have you ever heard anything more ridiculous? A force that can affect a plane, multi-ton vehicle, and not affect a balloon next to it.
Well, let me point something out to you, SE. Unless an object is moving in the non-inertial reference frame, there is no Coriolis force. None. Zero. If a balloon is simply sitting in a still atmosphere, there is no force acting on it. You guys need to learn something about Coriolis one of these days. But I don't think anybody right now has the ability to teach it to you.
Illusionary wind. Where do you go from there?
You go to Blues and hang out, talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, Raqia, I've got 4,500 hours in a logbook that says I've done a little bit more than talk about it, buddy.
Yeah, I don't know where you can go and talk about these sort of things. I mean, you can come here and have a chat about it, but there's no experts about any of this stuff because the globe isn't real. So the experts just make shit up. Isn't that right, Blue?
Well, you certainly make shit up, Bev. There's no doubt about that.
You're forced to unclamp shit and talk about bent horizontals like Wally. Illusionary wind. to account for something that doesn't happen in the first place.
I got no idea what they're going on
Oh,
about.
I remember another good one. This is concerning Blue years ago. We were talking about a plane flying on autopilot. And they were saying, yeah, the plane's going to go around. It's going to stay flying level, the same altitude, but it's going to travel around the globe. So I go to Blue. Blue, what? How? What's the mechanism? You know what he said? Equipotential gravity causes the plane to follow the curve of the so-called globe all the way around.
I'll give SE Montreal the benefit of the doubt on this. SE doesn't know enough to understand what I say and what I don't say most of the time. I have used many times the term equipotential when talking about gravity, but that is certainly not the way I've ever explained an airplane maintaining its altitude. That's just nonsense. SE just plain misunderstood me.
Tell me I'm lying, Blue. Tell me I'm lying.
No, you weren't lying, I don't think, SE. But I've done a number of videos. I think I've got 3 or 4 of them queued up here, where I've talked about why an airplane maintains its altitude. We'll get to that in a minute.
He says, I've done vids on this. The Coriolis force on an aeroplane would be too small to even measure with any instrument I ever had. Of course we don't account for it. Don't be silly. You best tell Moyoc, Blue, he's like rogue.
I don't know what Moyak's talking about. You guys misrepresent everybody. I'm not going to make a single comment about this crap, Bev. I'll talk to Moyak and see what he really did say.
You got to catch up with the times, bro.
Yeah.
We got illusionary wins here. You're behind.
Rumpus is saying, Kevlar, how can you claim I was kicked off today's show? I was there till the end. What? Is he here?
Yeah.
Rumpus?
Yeah, Rumpus was in there, and no, he was not kicked
He's
off
probably
Jose's
talking
show.
about another show. He wasn't in this show.
Oh, we might have been somewhere else. Jose's.
Yeah.
Ah, we're talking about Jose's. Right.
Did they throw you out, Rumpus?
I suppose also it's more appropriate to have videos of sunny environments released in the spring rather than the winter. Oh. Rumpus, have you done any of your videos or anything? Yeah, any of your testing? Or any? He was meant to be checking out your videos and your streaming, all of that sort of stuff.
I don't really remember where this is going. We'll let them wind on. There's some stuff toward the end of this that I want to get to.
May? June?
Yeah.
I should be cute soon. I mean, we're getting ready to.
They're gonna get back to the altitude issue here in a few minutes. And there's some funny stuff in there.
We've got, like, inspired by Rumpus and his 600-meter statement of the verticals, plumb bobs. We've got a test.
Here we go.
Yeah, to follow up on what SC said about Blue, he he says that gravity causes a column of air, basically, at a certain altitude. Whatever altitude you're at, there's a pressure difference above the plane and below the plane. And once you get it set, it will take you in that same column around the Earth.
No, I say there is a pressure gradient, which we are all well aware of, regardless of what shape the Earth is. It's very predictable, and it changes a little bit with barometric pressure, which is the reason why you get altimeter settings so that the altimeter is properly calibrated for the area you happen to be in. But I don't talk about it in terms of gravity. Yes, that is in fact what's causing the pressure gradient, but it is the pressure gradient itself, the fact that air density is directly a function of that pressure gradient. And once you have an airplane trimmed for a particular altitude, it will maintain that altitude. If it descends, it's descending into more dense air, and it increases its lift. It will climb when it does that. If you try to make it climb, it's going into an area of less dense air. It loses lift, and if you leave it alone, it will return back to the equilibrium point it was at before you started messing with the airplane. Now, that's how it works in reality. I'll show you some stuff in a minute.
There you have it. I may be calling it a column, but you know what I'm saying, the same layer of air.
Yeah, that's what he said. He's just wrote it here. You may be intentionally lying, Essie. He's not at all. He says, but you certainly don't understand. An airplane flies at a constant air pressure, which is a constant altitude, except for barometer changes. What?
Constant altitude, except for barometer changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do they know they're keeping it at a constant altitude with the barometer changes?
That's what I was saying earlier. Every time you check into a tower, which is often in a lot of cases, they're giving you the barometric pressure reading and how much to adjust your altimeter. And it's got a little dial on it, and you might be at 5,100 feet, and they'll tell you to go to 5,090 feet or whatever.
5,100 feet, and they'll tell you to go to 5,090 feet. Raqia, you're an idiot. This is an altimeter. A thing that looks like that. You see that little window on the right? You see those numbers in the little window? Right now it's sitting on 29.9. That's inches of mercury. That's your barometric pressure setting. The other red arrow that I'm pointing at there on the bottom left is the adjustment knob. That changes that pressure setting. You're not always talking to tower Raqia. In fact, most of the time you're not. You're talking to approach or departure control, or you're talking to center. But they will give you an altimeter setting and you dial it in. They'll tell you something like the altimeter setting 29.96, and that's where you put it. That keeps everybody flying at the same, whether it's exactly 10,000 feet, whatever your altitude you're trying to hold is, or not. Everybody is off by the same amount because we're all using the same pressure settings. You got a long way to go in your pilot training, Raqia.
Whatever it may be, it's usually small, but it's so you don't hit the ground. Like if you have to land quickly, they want you to have the right, reading on your instrument, so you're not, the ground approaches you at the right.
No, dummy. Their job is to keep us from running into each other up there. They want to know, they want us all at, if we're supposed to be at 10,000 feet, they want us all at 10,000 feet if that's where we're supposed to be. It doesn't have anything to do with running into the damn ground. ATC's primary function is traffic separation. That's what they're there for.
Distance, you know. It's definitely affected by the barometric pressure. But for it to hold you in a flight pattern around the rim of a sphere, or, you know, at a certain altitude around a ball, yeah, you might want to show me that.
Okay, good idea. Let's see what I can show you. Let's see what this is a video I did. Brian's Logic. Well, let me back up just a second. Or, that's how you stall the airplane. We control the rate of descent by adding some power, not by increasing the angle of attack. You know, I think it's time we introduce Brian to the lift formula. Well, there it is, Brian. This formula relates lift to what we call the coefficient of lift, the density of the air the wing is flying in, the speed of the air, and the surface area of the wing itself. Notice that lift is proportional to the coefficient of lift, but lift is proportional to the square of the airspeed. That means if I double the coefficient of lift, I'll double the lift. But if I double the airspeed, I will get 4 times as much lift. There's another factor in here that I want you to pay attention to, though, and that's air density. Lift is directly proportional to the density of the air the airplane is flying in. This is why an airplane will maintain its altitude with little or no input from the pilot once it's been trimmed properly. And it's exactly the same reason why an airplane can fly over the curved surface of the Earth without the pilot having to do anything. You got that? You understand that? Seems pretty simple. That is the lift equation. That's how it works. If the air density changes, the lift has to change with it. The coefficient of lift is pretty much fixed by the angle of attack. If your airspeed is constant and your wing surface area hopefully doesn't change, the only thing left is density. If the air density changes, the lift changes. And it's exactly what I said earlier. If the airplane were to try to descend, it would be descending into denser air, and it will gain lift and return to the altitude it was trimmed to fly at. If it climbs, it goes into less dense air. It loses lift, and it will descend back to the altitude it was trimmed to fly at. It's that simple. You can see all of that graphically. Okay, I got a whole bunch of junk in here. We don't want to watch all of that. That's one video. Let's see, there's another one here. I don't know what this is about. Let's see what we got.
Like, a lot of pilots will say, well, I just follow an attitude and that brings me around the globe. No, that's not how it works. Excuse me. My throat is dry from talking. So that's not how it works. You can't follow an altitude but not pitch down.
Well, it works exactly that way, Brian. The air density at any given altitude is pretty much constant. From the lift equation, we know that lift is directly proportional to the density of the air. And at any given altitude, that density doesn't change by much, except for maybe barometric pressure variations. But those are usually pretty minor. So if our airspeed doesn't change, because the angle of attack didn't change, then our altitude above mean sea level remains constant. And it simply looks like this. Now, what's wrong with that, Brian? Now, Brian's got it. Yeah, I think that's probably not a picture everybody wants to look at for long. Let's go back to something else. So we'll continue now. I think we've got the point across. I noticed that Justin Boats in the chat said blow his mind with backside of the power curve. No, I don't think I don't think we need to try to teach them about slow flight at this point. They've got a long way to go just to be able to trim the damn thing for normal flight.
They just envision their model, and they just, they think that that's the way it happens without putting any thought into it.
Well, that's what it has to do, although you're dealing with what they tell us is powered flight, not a ballistic, right? So, that power is overcoming gravity. So how is it all of a sudden gravity is affecting it? I'm confused, for one. So
You can say that again.
Well, at least he owned up to it. He didn't call me a liar.
Oh, give me a minute.
yeah, we're
I'll
not
get
trying to lie. I mean, we don't have to lie to make you sound ridiculous, Blue. Do it just fine enough. I just think you forget about all the things you say, which is fair enough, right? I mean, we're on a lot of shows, and hey, if I'm wrong, if you just said you took a class or whatever, or you just misspoke or I misheard or whatever, but you definitely said that Coriolis was taught in flight training, right, Blue?
Wrong.
Because basically at that time, all we were talking about is what day, right, of school is that so we can attend.
Blue says,
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Blue said it was on the first day. He might have been joking.
Yeah, probably. He's put down Raqia. Altimeter settings are in inches of mercury. For fuck's sake. You need more study, it seems.
Well,
They
he said it
don't
was
take
wrong.
mercury barometers up there, do they, Blue?
No, Bev, they don't. They certainly don't take mercury barometers up there. It's an aneroid barometer, a very sensitive one. The calibration for US anyway is in inches of mercury. That's the way we do it. You could calibrate it in anything you want. It could be in PSI for that matter, hectopascals or whatever. We happen to use inches of mercury. That's all.
But, I mean, it's handy inches of mercury. I don't think you know what you're saying, Blue. But, I mean, if you want to keep with the inches of mercury, that's good.
Oh, I know exactly what I'm saying. And the more you talk, the more ridiculous you sound, Bev.
I think Blue might have put in a couple of those gotchas, where he says stuff wrong, where we'll say it later.
Yeah, that might
It
be
might
one
be
of
that.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he can call us a liar.
Yeah, and go,
Right,
ha,
Blue?
ha, ha.
Scooter.
Yeah, they're all in there. They're all in the chat. Thanks, guys. I mean, you're giving us plenty of stuff for in the YouTube text chat, people. That's where we get all of the best.
Yeah, it was pretty bored until Blue came in and said a physical object that's powered by an engine that overcomes gravity is affected by gravity in flight so much that it's pulled around a ball. Thanks, Blue. You're the best.
I never said a thing of the kind. Oh, good Lord.
Gravitational equipotential. Wham!
When you put those numbers into their calculators and all, they figure out a jet going 500 miles an hour, blah blah blah, would have to, would drop so many miles over an hour or whatever. It's pretty. I mean, it's significant, right? In 1 hour of flight, you're dropping however many feet or miles, whatever it is. It's significant either way. And to say that the force of gravity is doing that when you have huge engines on these.
I don't understand why these guys cannot get it through their thick skulls. You're not dropping. You're staying at the same altitude. How do you figure that's dropping? I don't get it. That makes absolutely no sense. But they constantly talk about that. The airplane has to drop. No, if the airplane dropped, it would be losing altitude. Maintaining the same altitude is not dropping.
Planes that are overcoming gravity is kind of doublespeak in my book.
Yeah, they say that all the time. Like the butterfly's wings, it overcomes gravity. So does the plane, but somehow, yeah. Sorry, Blue. Try again.
Yeah, I think Blue said he wanted to do a video about the hump. We're hoping more people are going to be doing the elevation profiles with the unclamped hump elevation profiles. But Blue did say something about the test and the slope of the water, and LIGO, and the bridge. That Blue. I'm hoping you are going to actually do that, Blue.
I've already done that, Biff. I've already done videos both on LIGO and on the bridge. No further input required. It's about your time now to do something. We have not seen anything out of you yet. Don't you think that would be a good idea?
I'll stick you to that. Be interesting.
No, I'm lying. Uh-oh. Raqia, I've joined your ranks. We're both liars now.
Rumpus is happy to type it in the chat. Did somebody say he got kicked off Jose's? It might have been embarrassed.
Well, I think that's about all they did yesterday that was worthy of even commenting on. But there is something else that Bev still needs to address. Let me see if I can. Let's bring this up for a second. This is a video I did. Hope you're listening, Bev.
Said that you were measuring an angle of 90 degrees. In which you need a quadrant.
The definition of
a sextant only measures 60 degrees because it's a sixth, not a quarter.
Is that what he said? Let's see. Let's hear it again. Bill does this all the time, so I don't feel bad about doing it.
Sextant only measures 60 degrees because it's a sixth, not a quarter.
Hey, Magellan, the index mirror doubles the angle. Yeah, that was kind of interesting, don't you think? But then, let me see if I can find what I'm looking for here. But then, I think we start down here. There was this curious exchange. I said, if you look up at let me blow this up just a little bit. I said, didn't you say you don't watch videos from the Adult Globe Believers channel? This is to Bev. How did you find out about 120 degrees? Bev said, it's wrote on the side of my sextant, Blue. Really? Then I responded, then why did you tell Genesis over and over that a sextant can only measure 60 degrees? Did you make a mistake? And then I realized what he said. I said, wait a minute. You have a sextant, you told a poor guy something you knew wasn't true? That isn't very nice, Bev. We have yet to get an answer out of Bev. Do you have a sextant or do you not? I don't think you do. I think you're just making stuff up. That would be my take on it. Oh my. Looks like we've done it again. Sorry. So, who out there in the chat now that I'm all done playing around with OBS and things, I can pay a little more attention. Anybody got anything else that they would like to talk about? And I am over in my Discord too. If anybody wants in, just hit me up. That is, unless you're banned on the channel. Let's see how long we've been going. Must be a timer on this thing someplace. Oh, I see it. Hour and 5 minutes. Yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to run through today, just for fun. These guys just love to make up stuff. I don't know if I don't know how intentional it is. I don't know if they just don't understand what they're saying, or if it's done maliciously. It makes it. Either way, the outcome ends up being about the same. I certainly have never told anybody that we taught Coriolis in flight school, for God's sakes. Nor have I ever told anybody that equipotential gravity is the reason why airplanes maintain their altitude. That's a fiction of somebody's imagination. So, anybody got anything else? I see Raqia out there complaining that I recorded Bev's show. Yeah, you recorded a lot of my Discord too, didn't you, buddy? So I think we could call this fair use without any problem whatsoever. Well, all right. If we don't have any questions or further comments, I'm going to wrap it up. Hey, thanks for showing up, everybody. I hope you had a good time. I'm going to start doing more live streams and just having some fun. So with that, let's see if I can play a little outro music and we'll get out of here. Hey, Stevie B. 10 pounds, 10 pounds. Thank you. They tried hard to win top left. Yeah, they did. Hey, there's always next year, you know.